Hey, what's up guys, it's Cypher and welcome to my Magicka Dragonknight PvP build video. I know you guys have been waiting for this for a while and I do apologize that it's taking me this long to release the build. First thing I want to say is, when I make these PvP builds, a lot of the times the builds isn't my original idea, but I take inspiration from other people to put together the builds that I upload. So for this video I want to give thanks to Skafa and to Velokadai. I took a little bit from both of their Magicka DK PvP builds to put this one together, and hopefully you guys enjoy. Let's get straight into it. On our first bar, it's going to be our one hand and shield bar. We have the very typical DK one hand and shield spec, which is going to be Burning Embers, Flame Lash, Invasion, Reflective Scales, Talons. Now for ultimate, I've been playing around with Dawnbreaker of Smiting, and I think it's really useful, especially against dodge rollers, because it hits through dodge. If they're a vampire, it will do a lot more damage to them. You could also put Dragon Leap, Ferocious Leap into this, and it will also give you a very cheap ultimate that gives you a big shield after you cast it. But I've been playing with Dawnbreaker of Smiting as a finisher, and I think it's really great. Even against non-vampires, it's very useful. Let's go to our second bar. Our second bar, it's kind of customizable from here. Basically, most of the DK specs out there, they're gonna have a similar first bar, but it's in the second bar that you can kind of customize things and switch things out to be a little more unique. Now, we are a vampire, so we are using Elusive Mist for movement speed, and this is also just to survive and have some sort of mobility. That's what DKs lack. DKs and Templars, they both lack mobility, so that's why if I ever play a DK or Templar, I'm going to have some sort of mobility in the spec itself. So Elusive Mist is going to be our form of mobility. We have Igneous Shield, Coagulating Blood. The reason we're using Coagulating instead of Green Dragon Blood is because we already get the stamina regen buff from our potions, so it won't stack with Green Dragon Blood. So we get the extra healing, the 8% extra healing if you recast it within 20 seconds. And it also buffs up your bat healing, your Devouring Swarm. So we're also using Structured Entropy to boost our spell damage. And then over here, this slot actually, you can put a lot of different abilities here, and I've experimented with many different abilities. If you want to use Proximity Detonation, that's good. A lot of times though, if you're playing solo, Proximity might not be an option. They're not going to allow you to cast it. You can put Hardened Armor from our Armor and Spell Resistance. You can put Draw Essence just for another AoE option plus heal. You could also put Fossilize to combat dodge rollers, also to break people's block, because Fossilize does go through block, and it's a very, very strong ability. So there's a few things that you can put here. I'm leaving that up to you guys. Sometimes I run with Proximity. A lot of the times, usually I'm running with, if I'm running with a Resto, by the way, I'm using a Resto staff, a Magnus Resto, and I'll get into the sets later. But you can also run Sword and Shield here. And if you're going to run Sword and Shield, I recommend running the Dominion or Pact set, so you can get that extra stam regen. And there's another option you could do with the Sword and Shield. I'll get into armor sets in a second, but if I'm running a staff, like a Destro or Resto, I usually will run Fossilize, just for that extra, the range CC. If I'm running a one-handed shield, a lot of the times I like to run Draw Essence. So I'll swap to this bar when I need a heal. I put up Igneous Shield, I heal up, I hit Draw Essence, then I swap back to my one-handed shield, and I start taloning and doing some AoEs, and then the Draw Essence explosion kicks in 2.5 seconds later. So it's really useful. For your ultimate, Devouring Swarm all the way. It gives you the most resources back for the cheapest ult cost, and it's also extremely useful when you pop this in a group. You usually won't go down until your ultimate runs out. Let's go into armor sets. So for armor sets, we're running Engine Guardian. A lot of the DKs out there are running Bloodspawn. The only reason I'm running Engine Guardian over Bloodspawn is because the Bloodspawn set might be more useful in heavy 1vx, like when you're severely outnumbered 1 to 10, 1 to 15. Also in group scenarios when there's going to be a lot of incoming damage. But with a DK nowadays, 1v10, 1v15, it's possible, but it's not as consistent as it used to be back then when they were extremely overpowered in that area. That's why I like Engine Guardian, because if you run into a 1v2, 1v3, 1v4, 1v5, even 1v6 situation, including 1v1s, Engine Guardian is going to be the better set to choose. Because a lot of the times in those scenarios, you're using your ultimate as an execute, you're using it to finish people off, you're using it defensively. you're not popping it for resources because you're going to have your resources taken care of. But in a 1v10, 1v15 situation, when you're using Blood Spawn, you activate your ultimate as soon as you get it because you need to activate it or else you're going to run out of resources or you're going to die. With Engine Guardian setup, you're not relying on your ultimate for resources, so you can use your ultimates as you please. You don't have to rely on Battle Roar for resources. So that's why I use Engine Guardian. I'm also running 4-piece Magnus, and that's 4 on the body. And then if you want, you can also run the 5th piece like a healing staff or a Destro staff, or even a one-handed shield, but I don't recommend the one-handed shield. If you're going to run one-handed shield, you might as well use the Dominion sword and shield for that extra stamina regen. But 4 pieces of Magnus for max Magicka, recovery, spell damage, and then 4 pieces of the healer, the sash, and then the 3 rings, the 2 rings, and then the necklace. Now, there is a bit of a customization that you can do over here. Instead of wearing 2 rings of the healer, you can actually wear 2 rings of the Citadel's Light. And then, if you're going with the one-handed shield route, you can wear the Dominion Choker. And now you have the reduced cost of the ultimate plus the stam regen, and then you still get the spell damage out of Citadel's Light. And what you could do over here is instead of using this 1 piece of sash of the healer, you can put a Magnus sash. But I honestly prefer the Resto setup for smaller scale 1vx. Larger scale, the double sword and board helps more, but at the same time, DKs with this setup, you're not gonna have enough damage solo to take out groups through AoE alone. You actually have to be able to single target DPS people, which you can do through animation canceling, whips, unstable flame, and your single target ultimates. You'll be able to do that, but with this setup, you'll have a better chance in the smaller scale fights. With this setup, so 4 healer, and 4 Magnus, 2 Engine Guardian, and if you're using the staff, it's 5 Magnus on your resto bar. If you're using sword and board, you're just gonna get the extra stam regen from the Dominion set. Now, Sword of the Torx Pact and Shield of the Torx Pact, Nirnhunger sword, of course. And then the shield is outdated. It's actually a shield I used to use when V12 was the max max level. I just wasn't. I just haven't upgraded it yet. I haven't made a V14 one. I haven't been playing my DK as much. I've been focusing on my Nightblade and Sorcerer, just because my Sorcerer is brand new, and then my Nightblade, it's just very popular. So let's go straight into champion points. Over here, we have 31 points into reducing the cost of Magicka spells. This is really important because you're using 5 pieces of heavy, 2 pieces of light. Increasing our stam regen, that's important. So is increasing our Magicka regen. 10 into tumbling. Now, every single build needs to have some into this. Even if you're purely Magicka based, this reduces the cost of CC break as well. So it's useful for everyone. I don't know, if you're running a build without at least 10 points in here, you should reconsider. 43 points into Elemental Expert, that's going to boost our fire damage. 23 into increasing our crit damage, it stacks with each other. 11 into increasing healing, so this is going to stack with our Green Dragon Blood, our Igneous Shield. You know, it's going to improve our healing with Devouring Swarm and our Green Dragon Blood, so it's really useful. 1 point into Spell Erosion, just because it's not scaling properly, so 1 point is going to give you the most effective approach. And then 16 points into increasing your magic damage. Now this is just going to increase your skills like Fossilize, Devouring Swarm, Dawnbreaker of Smiting. All of that is magic damage, so you don't have to put too much into that because you don't have a lot. Most of your damage is coming from Talons, coming from Whip, Burning Embers. That's all elemental, but you're going to have some damage coming in from anything you reflect, anything you hit with your Dawnbreaker, and that will all be boosted by that one. Let's go back. We still have one more set to cover. Now we have 4 points into increasing spell resist, reduce crit damage. Most of your points from here are going to go into block reduction, just because you're going to be blocking most of the time with this build, so it's really important to have some sort of block reduction. Elemental Defender, stack as many points as you can to this one as well, just because you are a vampire, so you're going to be taking more damage from fire attacks, and the more points you put into here, the less that becomes an issue. 17 points into Hardy, 4 into Thick Skinned, 8 into increasing the effectiveness of healing received. Now this also stacks with the other one that increases your actual healing effectiveness. So you're going to have some insane healing with this build if you put enough points into here and into blessed. And then I just put 2 points. I'm going to start putting a little more points into Bastion. It doesn't really matter. Bastion's not as important. I was just testing to see how big it affects my Igneous Shield. I might put some more points in this in the future, but we'll see. So that's all I have for champion points. For Mundus Stone, I am using the Achinok, and that's really important for your Magicka recovery. And I'm using Tri-Stat Food. If you're using a Magicka build, a lot of the times you will be using Tri-Stat Food instead of drinks. And these are the stats I have with Dark Elf. So I am a Dark Elf for this build, but you can play this with a lot of different types of builds. Just some races off the top of my head: High Elf, Breton, Imperial. If you're not one of those races, you can still run this build. These are just like the most effective for my playstyle. I have like 21k health, 30k Magicka, 14k stamina, attributes all into Magicka, and then you can change your armor glyphs accordingly if you need more stamina, more health. It varies from person to person. So thank you guys so much for watching, and hopefully I'll be uploading some PvP videos on my DK. I know some of you DK fans have been a little disappointed just because I've been focusing a lot on Nightblade and Sorcerer. Those classes are just really easy to play for solo PvP, and DK and Templars are kind of hard mode, so I am being a little lazy on that aspect. I will get into DK, and I'll show DK some love very, very soon. That's about it, guys. If you have any questions, post below. Also, check out the detailed description of this build on my website, SypherPK.com. And you can also feel free to email me, SypherPK@gmail.com, if you have any questions regarding this build, regarding DKs. I know some of you are probably wondering, are you going to release a light armor PvP build? There is a light armor PvP build I'm testing. It's not mine, but I'm testing it. You might see some footage from that as well. So thank you guys so much. Remember to subscribe, and I will see you guys soon.